here, he getting mad. He don't like the truth coming out.
Are you good, God? I got money. You good?
They calling him now, bro.
I got money. I got money.
On June 14th, 2025, 27-year-old Zaria Carr and her husband, Shamarcus Carr, began live streaming an argument from their home in Twin City, Georgia.
So look, boom. So she went to goddamn cheat. Long story short, after all that other live and shit, you know, I was out the house, went staying for a couple months, came back, you know what I'm saying, really went staying, having to sleep at my goddamn partner shit. I'm busted, I'm broke, fucked up. I ain't having shit, no job, no nothing. Before that, I caught her tasting the Squeeze, cause she seen me and Squeeze goddamn baby mama talking or whatever. At that time, me and that girl wasn't even on no shit like that. So here we go.
Let me tell my truth.
I got them coming. Hey,
You went on now trying to tell
hey, look at here, man. Get out my line now. I'm telling you, leave it alone now. Get out my line. Go make your own line. Go make your own line. You done got on your shit.
You know
Listen, you done got on your shit.
He
Do your thing.
spread that boy name like we had something going on. Me and Squeeze had shit going on.
From the beginning, the tension between them was obvious. What started as accusations about their relationship became increasingly hostile as both continued arguing in front of an online audience, with Zaria accusing Shamarcus of abuse while he became visibly more agitated.
Here it is.
And he lying, telling the damn lie.
She get mad. Oh, I don't give a fuck. Get mad. She go in the other room, sleeping room. So early that morning, I go in and I snatch the phone from her. Go through the bitch. I see the Snapchat. They talking on Snapchat. It's him. So I go through the messages and shit. See her telling him, "Oh, I'ma call you back. I'm on the phone with his mama and all this shit here." Like, now remind you, this is a nigga that used to damn run with me.
He used to run.
Again, so she telling him, "Oh, I'm trying to get you. I'm finna get to the whole nitty gritty." She don't want me to tell the story. That's why she
Boy, you beat my ass when I was pregnant. I hadn't even talked to no man.
And then, the tone of the live stream changed. At one point, Zaria noticed what Shamarcus was doing and questioned whether he was going to stab her. Moments later, the argument included a direct reference to her dying, while Zaria continued telling the people watching that he was becoming angry because he didn't want the truth coming out.
Oh, I ain't gonna tell you about Odie. Then
I swear you'll die.
I gotta die about that. You told my shit.
Damn, bitch.
Give me my
I
phone.
gotta die if I tell what happened.
Give me my phone.
That's crazy, y'all. I ain't really gonna die behind this, so y'all won't know that tea right now.
Give me my phone.
Mark done got quiet. Where he at? He right here. He getting mad. He don't like the truth coming out.
The phone dropped to the ground, and shortly afterward, the live stream abruptly ended. Police were called to the home at around 9:30 that night for a domestic disturbance, where they found Zaria unconscious. Investigators later determined that she had been physically assaulted before Shamarcus shot and killed her. By the time officers arrived, however, Shamarcus and Zaria's Dodge Challenger were already gone. A few hours later, law enforcement located the car roughly 80 miles away. When officers attempted to stop it, Shamarcus shot himself and later died from the injury. But one of the most disturbing details had actually appeared online before the live stream even began. Only hours before her death, Zaria had written publicly that she didn't know what to do and needed help before she lost either her life or her freedom. Her followers, therefore, weren't simply watching an argument that unexpectedly turned fatal. In hindsight, they were watching a woman who had already publicly warned that she believed something terrible might happen to her. And the consequences extended far beyond the two people seen in that live stream. Zaria and Shamarcus were parents, meaning their deaths left their two children without either parent. That's what makes the final live stream so difficult to watch back. The warning wasn't hidden somewhere in the background, and it didn't only become obvious once investigators reconstructed the night. Zaria had already asked for help. Then, only hours later, viewers watched the situation. She seemed to fear begin unfolding directly in front of them. a situation that would ultimately take both parents from their children. But while Zaria had warning signs all around her, the next person had absolutely none. On November 14th, 2022, 55-year-old Stephen Levy was riding his motorcycle along the Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu when he stopped at a red light near Canaan-Doom Road. There was nothing unusual about the situation. Stephen was simply waiting to make a left turn, with his phone mounted to his gear, recording the ride, while traffic continued normally through the intersection in front of him. What Stephen couldn't see, however, was that a stolen Lexus was coming down Canaan-Doom Road toward the intersection at extremely high speed. According to authorities, the driver struck several warning markers while descending the hill and then entered the intersection without stopping. Within seconds, the Lexus slammed into the side of a gray pickup truck. The impact sent the pickup spinning and flipping directly toward Stephen, leaving him virtually no time to react. Even a ladder being carried in the back of the truck was thrown through the air as the entire vehicle came crashing toward his motorcycle. Stephen was knocked unconscious as the truck landed on top of him, while the Lexus continued across the intersection before crashing into the embankment on the opposite side of the road. The vehicle caught fire after the impact, and its driver later died from the crash. The driver of the pickup survived, and remarkably, Stephen survived as well, although his injuries were severe. His right arm was shattered, 9 of his ribs were broken, 1 of his lungs was punctured, and he suffered additional damage to his foot. He was airlifted to a trauma hospital and later said that he had no memory of the collision itself. And that's what makes the footage so unsettling to watch back. Stephen wasn't speeding, taking a corner too aggressively, or doing anything that placed him in obvious danger. He was completely stopped at a red light, following the rules and simply waiting for traffic to pass. Yet in only a few seconds, a stolen vehicle coming from a road he wasn't even traveling on triggered a chain reaction that nearly killed him. Stephen's camera didn't capture the final moments of its owner, but it did capture the final seconds of the driver whose actions caused the crash. And while Stephen somehow survived an impact he never saw coming, the next man wasn't as fortunate. On October 23, 2011, 24-year-old Marco Simoncelli lined up for the Malaysian Grand Prix at the Sepang International Circuit, only 1 week after achieving the best MotoGP result of his career. Simoncelli was already considered one of the sport's most exciting young riders. He had won the 250 cubic centimeter World Championship in 2008, and during only his second season in MotoGP, had begun proving that he could compete near the front of the premier class. But the Malaysian Grand Prix would last less than 2 laps for him. Simoncelli had been running in 4th position when he entered turn 11, a sweeping right-hand corner, and suddenly lost grip.
Whoa! That's Marco Simoncelli's had a horrific crash. That's an awful crash here in the MotoGP race.
Under normal circumstances, a crash like this would usually send both rider and motorcycle sliding toward the outside of the circuit, away from the other racers continuing through the corner. This time, something very different happened. Instead of continuing toward the edge of the track, Simoncelli's Honda regained partial grip while he was still caught alongside it. The motorcycle began turning back toward the racing line, carrying Marco with it directly into the path of the riders approaching from behind. And at the speed they were traveling, there was almost nothing those riders could do. Colin Edwards and Valentino Rossi arrived only moments later and had virtually no time to avoid Simoncelli, as he and his motorcycle moved back across the circuit. Both riders collided with him, sending Edwards to the ground while Rossi was forced off the track, but managed to remain on his motorcycle. The race was immediately stopped. Medical personnel reached Simoncelli and rushed him to the circuit's medical center, where doctors spent around 45 minutes attempting to resuscitate him. Despite their efforts, his injuries were too severe, and he was pronounced dead later that afternoon. The Malaysian Grand Prix was cancelled. What makes Marco's final moments especially difficult to watch is that the initial mistake itself wasn't necessarily what made the accident fatal. MotoGP riders lose grip and slide out of races all the time, and Simoncelli's crash initially appeared capable of ending the same way. But instead of sliding harmlessly toward the outside of turn 11, his motorcycle regained just enough grip to change direction. That single movement carried him back onto the racing line at the exact moment two other riders were arriving. A crash that could have ended with Marco getting back to his feet instead became an almost impossible sequence of events that neither Edwards nor Rossi had enough time to avoid. Only 1 week earlier, Simoncelli had stood on a MotoGP podium after achieving the best Premier Class finish of his career. 7 days later, his second lap around Sepang became the final lap of his life. But not every fatal mistake happens at hundreds of miles per hour. On September 27, 2025, Chinese aviation creator Tang Feiji started another live stream from Zhangye County while preparing to fly the small ultralight helicopter that had become the center of his online content. Tang had built an audience of around 100,000 followers by regularly filming himself in the single-seat aircraft, and on this particular flight, there initially appeared to be nothing unusual. He took off normally, flew for a short time, and even landed again to adjust the position of his camera before taking back to the air. But only minutes after that second takeoff, the aircraft suddenly lost control. Viewers watched as the helicopter dropped rapidly toward the ground before disappearing into the distance and catching fire on impact. The live stream remained active long enough for people watching to realize that what they had just seen wasn't a stunt, with viewers beginning to call for someone to contact emergency services. Tang died at the scene. Only afterward did several details about his flying history make the footage considerably more unsettling. Tang had previously said that he learned the basic controls after only around a week of studying and roughly 6 hours of practical experience. More importantly, this wasn't the first time the same aircraft had suddenly fallen from the sky. Reports based on Tang's earlier videos said that he had survived 2 previous incidents in 2024 after problems with the fuel gauge caused the aircraft to drop from low altitude. Despite those earlier incidents, Tang continued flying, and on the day of the fatal crash, he was reportedly wearing neither a helmet nor a parachute. The exact cause of the final loss of control has not been publicly established, so there is no evidence that the earlier fuel gauge issue caused this particular crash. And that distinction is what makes his final live stream so difficult to watch in hindsight. The danger didn't appear for the first time that afternoon. Tang had already experienced 2 frightening warnings while flying the same aircraft and had survived both of them. On September 27th, he landed one more time simply to reposition his camera. Then he took off again. And this time, he never came back down safely. Tang knew he was taking a risk every time he left the ground. The next man, however, was simply sitting inside his car. On August 13th, 2025, Kevin Watson was sitting inside his car in a parking lot on Chicago's West Side while broadcasting on Facebook Live.
We'll move the car so they can get the space. We will move our car, whatever car we need so they can get the space, just let's get the park. So now you, oh no, we can't do that. No, you just gotta find somewhere else to park. Who is you talking to? You feel me?
For several minutes, the stream looked relatively ordinary. Kevin was talking to viewers and discussing a disagreement that had happened nearby when something outside the car suddenly caught his attention. Someone had approached the vehicle, and within moments, Kevin got out of the car and confronted him.
What is you talking to for real, even talking like that? Like that, and that's what make a motherfucker want to get into it with y'all, because y'all ain't got no respect. What's up, bro? What's up? Hell no.
Witnesses later told reporters that the other man had a gun and that Kevin attempted to wrestle it away from him. The confrontation moved largely outside the camera's view, but the live stream continued recording as a shot was fired.
Get into it with y'all, because y'all ain't got no respect. What's up, bro? What's up? Hell no!
Kevin had been hit in the chest. What makes the footage particularly difficult isn't only how suddenly the attack happened, but what the live stream continued recording afterward. Kevin's phone remained live as he lay injured on the sidewalk, and only moments later, his own cousin came outside and discovered him there.
I got a police! Are you good, God? I got a police!
They calling him now, bro.
I got a police! I got a police! I got a police, man! What pressure on me? Are you good? What pressure on me? What pressure on me? What pressure on me? Hold on! Talk to me! 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 Talk to me!
His cousin repeatedly asked Kevin if he was okay, called for help, and tried to keep pressure on his injury while people around them began understanding what had just happened.
No, nobody touched nothing over here. Hey! This is my blood cousin, fuck. I got him. I'm trying to find the key because this bitch is locked and that shit ain't. Huh? And that's what I'm finna see. Phone.
What had started as Kevin casually talking to viewers from inside his car had now turned into his own family, desperately trying to keep him alive in front of the same audience. Kevin was rushed to the hospital, but his injuries proved fatal.
As gunfire rang out in this parking lot Wednesday evening on Madison near LeClaire Avenue in Chicago's South Austin neighborhood.
He was choking for breath. He was trying to struggle to breathe. I wouldn't let him walk out the store. He was a good man to this community. No matter what he done, he helped people, you know? He helped me get this job in there.
Close friends turned heartbroken witnesses say as Watson was walking to his car.
He was talking to a guy, and he was going to his car, and then the guy followed behind him. So when the guy followed behind him, pulled a gun on him. So he was trying to wrestle with the gun, and the gun went off.
I rubbed his palm, and I squeezed his hand. He wouldn't squeeze back.
He left behind a 6-year-old son, while relatives later described the impact of his death as something that had devastated far more than just one person. And that's what makes his final live stream so unsettling to watch back. There was almost no buildup that could have prepared anyone for what happened. Kevin had simply been sitting inside a parked car, talking into his phone, when something outside suddenly caught his attention. Within seconds, he was out of the vehicle and struggling with an armed man, and the live stream he had started for an ordinary conversation continued long enough to capture not only the attack, but the moment his own cousin found him on the sidewalk and realized Kevin might not survive. A live stream that began with Kevin talking to his followers ultimately ended with the people closest to him desperately trying to save his life. But sometimes, the most disturbing final moments are the ones where nobody realizes anything is wrong. On January 15, 2023, 29-year-old Sonu Jaiswal opened Facebook Live as Yeti Airlines Flight 691 began its final approach toward Pokhara, Nepal. Sonu was traveling with 3 friends, and from inside the cabin there was absolutely nothing to suggest that anything was wrong. Pokhara could be seen through the window beneath them. His friends were laughing and joking around. And at one point, Sonu even turned the camera toward himself and smiled as the aircraft continued descending toward the airport. But while everything appeared completely normal in the passenger cabin, something had already gone terribly wrong inside the cockpit.
Flaps 30, चढ़्दै जाऊ है चढ़्दै जाऊ तलबाट जाऊ अनि okay people landing here
Down 3 bit.
flaps
30 is fine. Take off.
TLU.
Low speed.
ICAA.
Check.
External light.
On.
Complete.
Here.
Huh?
Elect for the ride.
5. Check.
Continue to ride.
Oh. Continue to. Oh, you're my airport.
As the pilots prepared the ATR-72 for landing, the pilot flying called for the flaps to be extended to 30 degrees. Investigators later concluded that the pilot monitoring most likely moved 2 nearby condition levers instead, placing both propellers into what is known as the feathered position. The engines themselves were still running, but with both propellers feathered, they were effectively producing no useful thrust. For the people sitting behind the cockpit, however, there was almost no indication that anything had changed. Sonu continued filming the view outside while the aircraft descended lower and lower, completely unaware that the pilots were now struggling with a sudden loss of power only hundreds of feet above the ground. The crew attempted to increase power, but nothing happened.
Alpha is under.
You think it's
Idra 691. Wind 1 is 4 knots, runway 12.
Okay,
You do landing, sir.
Only seconds later, Sonu's livestream captured the aircraft, suddenly banking hard to the left. The relaxed conversation inside the cabin immediately turned to panic as the phone was thrown around. And moments later, the aircraft struck the ground before the screen became filled with fire. Flight 691 crashed into a gorge near Pokhara International Airport, killing all 68 passengers and 4 crew members on board. The final investigation would eventually determine that the most probable cause was the inadvertent movement of those 2 condition levers, which feathered both propellers and caused the aircraft to lose thrust before entering an aerodynamic stall during the final approach. Investigators also identified problems involving crew resource management, training, and cockpit procedures that contributed to the accident. But what makes Sonu's recording especially disturbing is the difference between what was happening in the cockpit and what the passengers appeared to know. While the pilots were already dealing with an aircraft that was no longer producing the power they needed, the people only a few meters behind them were still smiling, talking, and watching Pokhara pass beneath the window as if they were seconds away from an ordinary landing. Sonu had started the live stream simply to show his friends and family the view as they arrived. Instead, his phone recorded the final moments inside Yeti Airlines Flight 691. And that takes us to the next airport tragedy. However, this one didn't begin in the air. It began with one passenger missing his flight. On January 1st, 2024, 30-year-old Kyler Efinger arrived at Salt Lake City International Airport for a flight to Denver, where his family said he was hoping to visit his seriously ill grandfather. But after missing his flight, surveillance cameras began capturing increasingly unusual behavior. Kyler could be seen moving through the terminal, running at times and trying several doors that passengers would normally have no reason to approach, while airport employees became concerned enough to contact authorities. Eventually, Kyler found an emergency exit that opened and made his way onto the restricted side of the airport. By the time police realized he had reached the airfield, officers were already struggling to locate him as he moved through areas used by active aircraft. Pieces of his clothing and belongings were reportedly found along the way, while airport staff began reporting sightings of a man near the runways and descending areas. Then Kyler reached a Delta Airbus A220 that was preparing to depart. When officers arrived at the aircraft only minutes later, they found him unconscious inside the intake area of one of the engines. He was pulled out, and emergency crews immediately began CPR, but despite their efforts, Kyler could not be revived. Only afterward did his family reveal a detail that made the surveillance footage much more difficult to watch in hindsight. Kyler had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder years earlier, and his family believes he was experiencing a severe manic episode that night. They said the deteriorating health of his grandfather had affected him deeply and may have contributed to the crisis unfolding inside the airport. His parents later filed a wrongful death lawsuit, arguing that airport staff and police should have recognized that Kyler was experiencing a serious mental health emergency and prevented him from reaching the airfield, although those allegations remain disputed. What makes Kyler's final footage so unsettling is that, without knowing the outcome, his behavior initially looks like that of a confused passenger who had simply missed his flight. But every door he tried and every step he took farther through the airport was bringing him closer to a part of the terminal he was never supposed to reach. And less than 20 minutes after authorities were first alerted to his behavior, Kyler Effinger was dead. But unlike every case before, this final story you're about to watch only became more disturbing after the final moments were already over. On September 29, 2025, best friends Maria Niotis and Isabella Salas, both 17, were riding an e-bike through a residential street in Cranford, New Jersey, when a Jeep came toward them at an extraordinary speed.
A black SUV flew down the road and hit people. This woman is on the floor.
How many people are hit?
I don't know.
How many people?
How many people are hit? It's two people. Holy fuck, she's. Hurry up, please, hurry up.
Ma'am, they're already on the way.
Oh my God, holy fuck.
Is status on that Jeep?
One is down the street. Not good.
Meet the vehicle. Are they conscious and breathing?
Nobody's conscious. Nobody. Everyone's done. Not moving.
All right.
It's fatal.
All right, so like I said, I do got everybody on the line with me. I'm going to answer another 911 call.
Court records would later allege that the vehicle was traveling at least 70 miles per hour on a street with a 25 mile per hour limit. It struck both girls before the driver left the scene, and Maria and Isabella were transported to separate hospitals where they were pronounced dead.
A residential neighborhood in New Jersey turned into a crime scene. Two teens killed in an apparent hit and run. They were simply riding their bikes in Cranford, of all places, when they were hit late yesterday evening.
People in the neighborhood tell us two teenage girls were riding their bikes yesterday around 5:30 p.m. when they were hit by a car.
I believe they were on their way to a cappella practice yesterday.
At first, it could have appeared to be a horrific hit and run, but investigators soon began treating it as something very different. The driver was identified as then 17-year-old Vincent Battaloro, and prosecutors now allege that he intentionally drove into the girls in an attempt to harm them. He was questioned on the day of the crash and initially released while investigators continued working the case, before being arrested 2 days later on 2 counts of first-degree murder. What makes Maria and Isabella's final moments especially disturbing, however, is the footage that investigators and reporters discovered online. 6 days before the girls were killed, Vincent had live-streamed himself discussing Maria and her family. During that stream, he openly spoke about having a vengeance against her over accusations that he claimed had led to problems at school. before using what he called a burner phone to send a fake pizza order to her home.
Hi, can I place an order for delivery, please? Can I get 2 large pepperoni pizzas? It'll be cash at the door.
Kirk, once I could lay down. I gotta get drop P5 tonight.
Hey, whenever Maria sees the pizza guy come, better think of Charlie Kirk for making fun of his fucking death. Stupid ass clown.
Wait, what?
Just remember that.
What happened?
Now the restaurant's calling the number. I'm not answering it. That's worth a walk. Yeah, I'm not answering that phone.
What were you saying that she... What about Charlie Kirk?
No, she made fun of Charlie Kirk's death on TikTok on a repost.
Oh, she did?
Maybe her mother should monitor her social media activity. So that's going to be a double play.
Maybe they should just...
I'm just going to, you know what? I'm putting my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Reports reviewing the footage also said he acknowledged having previously driven to the house during another prank that resulted in police involvement. Those clips already looked disturbing after Maria's death. But then came the live stream Vincent recorded the following day. While 2 families were dealing with the deaths of their daughters, Vincent went online and discussed the crash with his viewers, referring to what happened as a tragic incident while insisting that there was more to the story.
Through way too much. I'm a nice kid. I'm 17 years old with a good family by my side. And these allegations that have been ruining everything is a shame. In a neighboring town, unfortunately, 2 girls were killed in a hit-and-run crash. Now, there has been a lot of misinformation going on over the internet. But I will say this. I wish my sincerest condolences to those 2 girls lost in that tragic accident.
He spoke about being bullied, described himself as a nice kid with a good family, and continued discussing his future live streams and playing video games with his friend.
Making threats against my family will not be tolerated. My cousin has received hateful messages over social media about this whole spiel, and he's had to unfollow me on everything because of this whole drama. Why are you guys getting him involved? It's one thing, okay, if you hate me, you hate me. If you don't, you don't. You're opening up Pandora's box, getting family involved. And that just does not sit right with me.
The reaction from viewers was immediate, largely because his tone seemed so disconnected from the fact that 2 girls he personally knew had died only the day before. Even as people flooded the stream with accusations, he continued talking about his channel and, according to footage reported in 2026, at one point remarked that the attention in the chat was simply giving him more engagement on YouTube. And as investigators continued digging, the case became even stranger. Charging documents made public in 2026 revealed that Vincent had allegedly told detectives that someone wearing a red mask had carjacked him at knife point before the crash. Prosecutors say footage recovered from his own Jeep's dashcam contradicted that account and instead showed him behind the wheel. Those allegations will ultimately have to be tested in court. Vincent, now 18, has since been transferred from juvenile proceedings into adult court and faces 2 first-degree murder charges. In July 2026, he agreed to remain detained while the case proceeded, and he has not been convicted of the murders. But regardless of the eventual verdict, the online footage creates an incredibly disturbing timeline around Maria and Isabella's final days. Before they died, a teenager who prosecutors now accuse of deliberately killing them was already discussing Maria and vengeance in front of an online audience. The next day, the 2 girls were dead, and less than 24 hours after that, he was back in front of the same audience talking about his future streams as though his own story was the one everyone should be concerned about. That's all for today, folks. If you like to see more of this creepy content, click on the video on screen.